Welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I'll be covering every studio song the band has recorded and every bonus track that I can find. Each week we'll go over a new song from the beginning to where they are currently, and as they keep adding albums, I'll keep adding shows. Let the deep dive party begin.
In the magic garden, some were singing, some were dancing.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I am your host, Scott Haskin, coming to you from Las Vegas, Nevada, here in the United States, doing a show about this wonderful European band. And I'll tell you, it's been a joy since the beginning. It was really just something that I kind of thought of. I mentioned it to Mick. He said, let's do it. And here we are, many episodes later. Season 23, we're covering Outsider. Today we are working on the song, Is Anybody Gonna Help Me? And I don't know why. I know I say that a lot because I don't. When things strike me, when I make a connection with something, it just happens. And a lot of times I don't necessarily know the reason why it happens. But I look at that song title, and for some reason, it feels like a song title that Ken Hensley might have come up with. Thinking of his song titles, this just kind of fits into that for some reason. Don't know why. But in any case, that's the song we're going to do today. But today is Monday and we have some business to attend to. First off, if you have not gotten your copy of the Everyday Rocks box set from BMG and Uriah Heep, 7 picture discs, 7 t-shirts, a wall calendar, lyrical quote cards, it's just an amazing package. I did an unboxing video. If you haven't seen it, it's on YouTube. And the link is on the website, scotthaskin.com. Click the Uriah Heep podcast link, and there it is. And I'll tell you, it is an amazing package and very heavy, too. Also, you can get the Choices box set, which are several CDs with songs suggested by the band members themselves, their opinion of, hey, if you want to get the essence of Uriah Heep, listen to these songs. These are the ones that I think will give you the best idea of who the band is, and then you'll love those, and you'll dig in and then buy all the albums. So those are very, very cool things to check out. Also, if it isn't over already by the time that this episode airs, please go to facebook.com/HeepRockHall or go to the website and click on the link to get the band inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame here in Ohio. Very, very important. That's a huge milestone, really something that's well deserved by the band. All political commentary on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame aside, to be able to say that you've been inducted into something that massive and recognized for your work, that's a pretty big deal to some people. So, let's help them make that happen. It should have happened decades ago. But that aside, we can make it happen now for the band. So, you're listening because you love the band, or maybe you're just checking them out for the first time and you heard about the podcast and you're like, hey, I've heard of Uriah Heep. What are they all about? And maybe that's why you're here, but I can guarantee you they deserve their spot in the Hall of Fame, period. So let's help make that happen. Speaking of things that help make that happen, my wonderful patrons on this show, who I deeply appreciate very much, who dedicate a portion of their income every month to give to the show to help me with the costs and keep things up and running. And, that just means tons to me. At the $5 Easy Living tier, we're talking about Kenny Wymore and Brad D. At the $3 The Wizard tier, we're talking about Peter Voss, Goran Eriksson, Frank Thielgaard Mortensen, and William Rose. And at the $1 Traveler in Time tier, tucked away like a Ziploc bag, airtight gravesite. Thank you all very much. It means so much to me. If you guys would like to dedicate some money to the show, I can tell you can go back to that website I told you about, scotthaskin.com, Uriah Heep Podcast. Go all the way down to the bottom. There's options to be a patron, and there's also options to do payments through PayPal. You could do an individual donation, or you could do an ongoing donation. Even after the show stops airing new episodes, the costs will continue, because to keep the show alive on the host, I have to pay the annual dues, and that doesn't go away. It's not like YouTube, which is free and you just stick stuff up there and it just seems to stay there forever. The stuff that they don't ban from it anyway, which is why this show is not on there because of copyright infringement. Even with the endorsement of the band to get the episodes on YouTube, there are so many different publishers, so many different clearances I would have to get to make that happen. The time and contacts are just not there. So it doesn't appear on YouTube, but it is everywhere else. Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Amazon, all the places. So, it's those places. For it to stay there, though, it does cost money. So I appreciate those who have helped me maintain that. Also, some shout outs to Cakewalk by BandLab, my digital audio workstation of choice, DAW, D-A-W, and I love them, been with them since forever. All my music production has been in Cakewalk, unless I do something in a scoring program and convert it. Like I've used Sibelius and Finale and Notion before to write music in, and then I import that as a MIDI file into Cakewalk. But Cakewalk by BandLab, that is the foundation of which all my recordings come from. Podbean, also, they are the ones that I pay the gobs of money to keep the show hosted and keep it going out to all the sites for you guys to listen to. Wouldn't be able to do what I do without the distributor, very important. My graphic artist, Scott Lazinski, did amazing work on the logos. Audionamics, who I will not do a podcast without their product, Instant Dialogue Cleaner, is amazing. Also, check out Extract Stems, an audio separating tool that is just phenomenal. And of course, my buddy and good fan of the show, Dave White, Uriah Heep's director of social media. He has done a great job with spreading the word of the podcast. He posts the episodes on Twitter and Facebook. He also runs the website, uriah-heep.com and mick-box.net. Thank you guys for all the folks who have shared the podcast, who have shared interviews that I've done with members of the band and related. That's a big help to me. And, it's really inspiring, again, to see that I've created something that people say, hey, I think someone else might like this, and share it with people. Especially when you're isolated like I am. I don't interact with a lot of people, don't interact with the public or the world a whole lot these days. So it's nice to know that I'm putting out something that people are enjoying. And, if you feel so inclined, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts or iTunes. They go to the same feed. Thank you for everyone who's done that. Whether you've liked the show, whether you've had negative things to say, I appreciate that you took the time to say what was on your mind. So thank you very much. And, the more that you guys do, the more people become aware of the show. So thank you to all of you folks. Speaking of thanks, we got to talk about the ever-growing Deep Dive Podcast Network. My buddies Nate and John over at the Deep Purple Podcast, The Simple Man at Skinnerd Reconsidered, Terry T-Bone Mathley at T-Bone's Prime Cuts on the Other Side, Rye at Sabbath Bloody Podcast, Paul, Joe, and David at the In the Lap of the Pods Podcast, Andy and Matt at Hawk Binge, Eric and Jonathan at Maiden A to Z Pod, Daniel and Josh at Diary of the Madmen, the ultimate Ozzy podcast. Ozzy Osbourne, of course. And we're talking about Ben and Sam at Universally Speaking, the Red Hot Chili Peppers podcast, George and Tom at the Metal Gods podcast, and our latest edition, Mark and Corey at the And the Podcast Will Rock, a podcast diving into the music of Van Halen. We talk to these guys. We have like one group email that just goes on forever, and there's so much support, and I'm passing around ideas and information. It's just a really cool network to be a part of. Very lighthearted and a great group of guys. People we can just have a conversation, and that's pretty awesome. Love that. And also, we got to talk about my buddy Brandon over at Metallicast, my favorite Metallica podcast, and Allegra at gottahearemall.com, her well-researched information on the touring lives of bands like Deep Purple and Emerson, Lake and Palmer / Emerson, Lake and Powell. Really, it's the same band. Ace on Music, his show on Stitcher and YouTube as Ace the Music Man, just an amazing look into the music business and all kinds of things going on. Keeping up to date with how things are working, like purchasing concert tickets. What's the deal with purchasing concert tickets and COVID? All kinds of stuff to check into. If you want to know all about non-fungible tokens, which I still think is a funny phrase, check out his show on that. He did a whole episode on that. Really cool stuff. So thank you guys all. Just amazing, amazing group of people. And I could not be happier to share all those with you because they're all great shows and great people. And now, let's talk about this because I want to know, is anybody going to help me? I like the sound of this. There's a nice flange in there that really kind of brings out an interesting mood. In the right ear, I'm hearing a very strong organ. In the middle, I'm hearing a rhythm guitar track that's pretty, it sounds like it might just be the strumming of it. And then in the far left, I'm hearing the dynamic guitar that has a little more flange on it too. Really nice sounding. I like the faster hi-hat with the slower drum beat. That kind of carries a song like this along. When you've got a slower drum beat, but you want the song to move, that's a great way to do it. If you're just playing, on the quarter note, the song tends to move a little bit slower and can be a little bit more dramatic. But I really like what I'm hearing here. Great moving bass. We got a good start. Definitely a good start.
The darkness is coming after me, like voices in the distance. They are raging free. I'm hard, I'm a fighter, but hiding deep inside from the hurt that haunts me until the day I die.
Wow, this is really something I think a lot of people can identify with. A lot of us carry around stuff that we shouldn't, we drag around the past and just kind of hold that inside. But at the same point, we think that we can take on anything sometimes. And this is one of those songs where you feel like musically you're at a point where you're like, God, I've had enough. Something needs to change, something needs to give. And you're kind of in that self-reflective state where you're trying to analyze what you can do that you haven't done before to make things different. And, those are, and this may be getting completely off the path of the song, but those are the moments that really kind of define us, right? Where we have that chance to change something. And it's a matter of whether we, climb out of that pit that we're in and do it or not. So musically, that's kind of what I'm feeling here. But it also kind of reminds me a little bit of Dead or Alive by Bon Jovi. Just that I need to, I don't know. It just musically, it kind of reminds me of that. Maybe the way that the vocals are delivered too reminds me a little bit of that too.
I'm asking you, is anybody gonna help me? I'm asking you.
Now, this band, Uriah Heep, or as I sometimes refer to them as Expect the Unexpected, has once again just given us a change out of nowhere that really turns the song into, a whole different feel, something really interesting. I really like the drums there and the organ. Very cool change.
I'm falling, no way I can survive, discarded and beaten, try to stay alive, be brave, be strong, get on my knees and pray, or turn and face the ghosts of yesterday.
Oh man, that is just audio gold right there. The way Bernie delivers those last lines, especially, and it really goes back to what I've been saying through this review, just that, and the music backs this up so beautifully, just that, we've been putting up with being complacent in our lives too long. We let things haunt us. We just take them as a matter of, well, this is the way life is, instead of saying, you know what, yesterday doesn't matter. I can learn from it, but I can also get up and do something about it. And that's where we're at in the song. And what I love about Bernie's voice, and I talked to him about this when I interviewed him. If you guys haven't heard the interview I did with Bernie or watched it on YouTube, you can either go to YouTube or it's on, the website again, scotthaskin.com/Uriah Heep. There's a section for that takes you to all the interviews that I've done with members of the band, past and present, as well as people that are related, like Steve Weltman. But this is something I talked to him about. Is I love how he can just take lyrics on a page and turn them into something that's so believable. I feel like he's actually in this turmoil right now. Like he's at the point where I need to do something, or these memories and my past is going to eat me alive. And his delivery is just so personal, so engaging, that it just blows me away that he didn't write the song, write the lyrics. Unbelievable. But I also want to add what the music is doing here is so powerful as well. It really supports the story. I feel a great deal of turmoil in the music. Not that the music has to be crazy to give me that feeling, like not some crazy progressive piece of music. I'm just talking about the power in the music supporting the vocal that we're getting. And I remember in the movie Immortal Beloved, where Gary Oldman played Beethoven, he's talking to his future assistant, Anton Schindler, when they first meet. And he asks Schindler, what is it that music does? And Schindler replies, it exalts the soul. And Beethoven said that that's nonsense. If there's a march, you get up and march. If there's a dance or a waltz, then you dance. It's the power of music that can make you feel what the composer wants you to feel. I'm totally paraphrasing here, by the way. Great movie, though. If you haven't seen it, grab like 2 or 3 boxes of tissues because it's a real tearjerker, but it's a great movie. Not a proven concept, though. When you're watching it, that's not a factual story as far as who the Immortal Beloved is, but the rest of it chronicles his life fairly well, as I understand. Anyway, getting off the point, the point is the power of the music that we have here backing up Bernie's vocal just makes the song 10 times more powerful. It's so well suited. Again, this is probably a part I might normally find a little repetitive in most songs, but here there's just so much emotion in what we're hearing. And I really feel like it builds, like he's just getting more and more desperate, just looking for someone to reach out. As, sometimes we do get to that point. And especially as it builds to that last line, just fantastic. If you would have asked me when we first started the song, and let's say I'm just talking about that introduction, I always do that. We hear the intro before the vocals, and I stop the song usually before the vocals start and talk just about what we've heard up to that point. If you would have said, hey, Scott, is there a drum solo in the song? I would have said, no. Why would you think there would be a drum solo in a song that starts out this, mellow? Well, there is. And that was fantastic. I love how he started in because it really felt like he was just throwing the whole song off of the tempo. Obviously, you can listen to, the organ or guitar or bass, and you can follow it and know that the whole thing is staying on tempo. But some of the stuff he's throwing in there really makes it feel a bit off. Kind of like Rock the Foundation, I think it was, or maybe it was The Outsider, where we heard that beat come in that was just a little bit early and kind of threw a couple of measures off. Very, very good playing. Love the crisp, clean sound of his drums. You really feel that full effect in your chest because of the way that the toms are, set in volume and panning. It really feels very powerful. And it's that, to me, I interpret that as the conflict, right? The chaos that our storyteller is feeling. And this would be like the musical interpretation of, is there somebody there? Where are they? Why can't I find them? Obviously, we wouldn't keep asking if they connected with us. So we're just searching for that person while also trying to deal with this situation of letting go of the past. And there's so much chaos, so much conflict going on. The need to find the strength to just make it happen. And it's amazing that just the idea of not being miserable anymore does not generate the strength to make that happen. You would think that it would, but it doesn't seem to in a lot of cases. So I feel the drum solo is a representation of the storyteller's just angst and frustration and desperation to make this all go away. Oh, that's a really nice section. I love the interplay with the guitars and the organ there. Really cool. Nice slow build from Russell. I love the sound of the bass on this section, just adding notes that are just right for the mood. I always thought, and I really hate that I spent so many years not giving the bass enough credit as a writer. It was like, okay, I need to do a bass track. All right, root notes, great. Maybe, okay, here's a little thing I can do. And then all of a sudden, I just realized one day the real power of the bass guitar. And I have a feeling Uriah Heep was a good catalyst for me understanding that, whether it was conscious or not. As through the history, as we've heard through all the different seasons from Paul Newton all the way through, Heap's bass players have been very adventurous and do a lot of things that you wouldn't hear a lot of bass players do. So I really have appreciated that. If I haven't learned anything else from this band, it was certainly that. But I think there's been plenty more. But this situation for me feels like the storyteller is building that resolve. So now we've been through the turmoil. Now we're getting that, okay, I'm just going to have to deal with this and I'm going to have to start building, but I still want somebody to, it would be great if somebody would help. Hello, where are you? That's where I kind of feel like we're at in this point. And I'm going to make probably a really bizarre comparison. I tend to do that a lot, don't I? The song from Jesus Christ Superstar, Gethsemane, if you're familiar with that. Now, there's no direct tie that I know of between the soundtrack and Uriah Heep, but this reminds me of that. There's the point where Jesus is, he's like, I don't know how to do this. I want to do this. I don't know how. Then we get into the crazy musical part where you feel like he's dealing with that struggle, very much like this song. And then it just kind of stops and Jesus has that resolve. He's like still questioning things. And then he kind of turns around and starts blaming it on God. But musically, it's very similar to what's happening here. We've got that chaos, then we've got the mellow part where I feel like we're starting to accept things and say, okay, I've got to take a deep breath here and move forward. And it's interesting, the parallel between those two songs, at least what I'm putting together. Wow, now that I made that Jesus Christ Superstar comparison with the song Gethsemane, this part was not like that at all. But the end of it, that passion from Bernie, that desperation in that last line, kind of reminded me again of Gethsemane, that same thing that we get from Jesus, whether you're listening to the Ian Gillan version or you're listening to the Ted Neely version. Very powerful stuff. I love the build here. This part does seem to be a little bit repetitive just because, it's a little bit longer of a section and the build is very, very slow, but it's still powerful nonetheless. And I'm still within that emotion. Now, if I were listening to the song straight through, instead of breaking it up into sections, I probably wouldn't notice it as much because I would be more encapsulated with the emotion than I am when I keep stopping it. One thing I like here is the build in the backing vocals. At first it was just Bernie, then we have, more voices, and now we've got a little bit of higher voice in the background. It sounds like it's back in my right ear again. I think that's where they're mixing those on this album. But yeah, that's actually a pretty cool build. The drums build too. Yeah, it does have a little bit more power to it, although it is slightly repetitive. Oh, that was really nice. I like that that it ended with the guitar and that one bass note coming in. Very, very cool. It just feels like, this person is just exhausted, and it's like they're just gonna sleep on it. They're just gonna curl up where they are and just get a little bit of rest because they're tired. And I love the emotion of that, especially that bass note coming in. That was a nice touch. Cool song. I think this one's got a lot of power in it, and not in the like hard driving way, but power in the emotion of it, between the delivery and the music backing it up, and just a great structured song. It amazes me. Like, you think about where this album started with Speed of Sound, and we're at the halfway point with Is Anybody Gonna Help Me? The journey that we've taken, the contrast in the songs, and it's just really been an amazing album so far. And I can't wait to cover the rest of the songs. We've got, looks like 5 more to go, and we will hit it tomorrow with Looking at You. Hope you guys have a fantastic Monday. Have fun, guys. Cheers. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. If you have enjoyed this show, please consider going over to Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast outlet, leaving a rating or a review. Be sure to subscribe to make sure that you are notified when new episodes are available. Please be sure to share this podcast with your fellow Uriah Heep enthusiasts and anyone who you think would like Uriah Heep, which should be everyone. And if you are so inclined, please feel free to contribute to the Patreon account. And if you are not a Patreon subscriber, you can also pay through the PayPal link on the website listed in the show links below. I would also like to thank Uriah Heep for their very generous support of the show. And thank you guys for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Happy days!